Simplify your life so as to be identical with nature. The topic implied in this maxim is a bit difficult to explain. Simplicity is the very essence of nature. ಇದು ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ. You will get 1 mark question. What is the very essence of nature? Simplicity is the very essence of nature. It is a reflection of that which existed in the absolute in the latent state. So what existed in the absolute in the latent state? Whatever was there, a reflection of that is simplicity. Absolute ಅಲ್ಲಿ latent state ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿತ್ತು ಅದರದ್ದು ರಿಫ್ಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ simplicity. So in other words, we actually cross over simplicity, and simplicity also will feel very heavy. ಸರಿನಾ? ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ಸಟಲ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು. It can be aptly described as the quintessence of the ultimate. So ಇದು ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಮಾರ್ಕ್. What is the quintessence of the ultimate ಅಂದ್ರೆ simplicity. This is in fact the life substance of nature. ಇದು ಅಂಡರ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. Life substance of nature. ಲೈಫ್ ಎಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, ಅದೇ ಸಿಂಪ್ಲಿಸಿಟಿನೇ ಲೈಫ್ ಎಸೆನ್ಸ್, ಲೈಫ್ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ನೇಚರ್. ಇದು ಒಂದೇ ಕಡೆ ಅವ್ರು ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಬರೆದಿರೋದು, ಲೈಫ್ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ನೇಚರ್ ಅಂತ. ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ವಿಚ್ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿಲಿ ದ ಆರಿಜಿನ್. ಆಲ್ ದಟ್ ಫಾಲೋಸ್ ಫಾಲ್ಸ್ ವಿತ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಸ್ಪಿಯರ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಮಾಯಾ. ಸಿಂಪ್ಲಿಸಿಟಿಯಿಂದ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಅವೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಕೂಡ realm of the Maya only, where the people mostly abide in and pursue their activities accordingly. In other words, it is this one that led to the composition of forms. So all forms have originated from the simplicity as the root. So ಮೂರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. Simplicity is the very essence of nature. Simplicity is the quintessence of ultimate. Simplicity is the life substance of nature. This continued to develop in man too, and finally led to the formation of strong knots, which are now difficult to undo except by the special power of will. ಹಿಂದಿನ ಸೆಂಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಏನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು? ಸಿಂಪ್ಲಿಸಿಟಿ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಇನ್ ಡ್ಯೂ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಗೇವ್ ರೈಸ್ ಟು ಫಾರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಮನುಷ್ಯನಲ್ಲಿ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಬರೋದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಾಟ್ಸ್ ಕೂಡ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ನಾಟ್ಸ್ ನ ಬಿಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಯು ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ ದ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲ್ ಪವರ್ ಆಫ್ ವಿಲ್. Being entangled in these knots, man assumes a form which reflects grossness on the very surface. The external atmosphere and environment also affected, putting it to actions and counteractions, which brings it from bad to worse, and the simplicity gets enshrouded within it. So, ಎಲ್ಲದರಿಂದ ಬಿಡಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ we can exhibit simplicity as a character. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult to exhibit simplicity as a character. ಸಿಂಪ್ಲಿಸಿಟಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಜನ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ ಅಪಿಯರೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಿಳಿ ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಹಾಕೊಂಡಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ಗಡ್ಡ ಬಿಟ್ಟಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ಶಾಲೆ ಓದ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಸಿಂಪ್ಲಿಸಿಟಿ ಆಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಆಸ್ ಅವರ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಆರ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ಡ್. ಸರಿನಾ? ಸೊ ಒಂದೊಂದು ಕಲ್ಚರ್ನವರು ಒಂದೊಂದು ತರ ನೋಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸಿಂಪ್ಲಿಸಿಟಿ ಆಸ್ ಎ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ ವಿಚ್ ಇಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸಿಬಿಟೆಡ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾಟ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ ರೆಲ್ಮ್ ಬಟ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಇನ್ ದ ಇಂಟರ್ನಲ್ ರೆಲ್ಮ್. ಎರಡೂ ರೆಲ್ಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು. ಸರಿನಾ? ಸೊ ಸಿಂಪ್ಲಿಸಿಟಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಮಹತ್ವ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಂಗೆ 12ನೇ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ದಾಟೋವರೆಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಸಿಂಪ್ಲಿಸಿಟಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. 12ನೇ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಯೂರಿಟಿ ಅಂಡ್ ಸಿಂಪ್ಲಿಸಿಟಿ ಇಸ್ ಅಟ್ ಪೀಕ್. ಬಟ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ದಟ್ ವೆನ್ ಯು ಎಂಟರ್ ಇನ್ ಟು ದ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ರೀಜನ್ ಯು ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಟು ಗೆಟ್ ಫರ್ದರ್ ಸಿಂಪ್ಲಿಫೈಡ್ ಆಲ್ದೋ ಯು ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಅವೇರ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಟ್. ಏನಪ್ಪ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ? ಏನ್ ಹಾಕಿದೆ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ?
ವೆರಿ ಬೇಸಿಕ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್. ಯಾವ ಬುಕ್ ಅಂತ? ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ನಾನು ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿಮ್ 2 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೆ, ಬಟ್ ಇವಾಗ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತದೆ.
ನೀನು ಒಂದು ಇದ್ರೆ ಎದುರಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಬಂದಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ವಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿಮ್ 2 ಮುಗೀತು, 3 ಮುಗೀತು, ಈಗ 4th ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. 4th ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿಮ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಪೇಜ್.
Thank you.
All these combine together form a state which keeps man entrapped in it. The perfect calmness that existed before creation was disturbed by the effect of the stir, which led to the formation of forms. ಇದು ಪದೇ ಪದೇ ಡಿಸ್ಟರ್ಬ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದೇರ್ ಬಿಫೋರ್ ದ ಸ್ಟಿರ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಬಿಫೋರ್ ದ ಕ್ಷೋಭ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಪರ್ಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಕಾಮ್ನೆಸ್. Since all created things had brought with them a reflection of the real power, their actions are also similar to those of the cosmic powers which are set into motion by the effect of the stir. Thus a spider's web began to be formed. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹಾಗೆ ಒರಿಜಿನಲ್ ಪವರ್ ಇಂದ, ಸ್ಟಿರ್ ಇಂದ ಏನ್ ಬಂತಲ್ವಾ, ಅದರಿಂದ ಒಂದಿಷ್ಟೆಲ್ಲ ಪವರ್ಸ್ ಬಂತು. ಅದೇ ತರನೇ ಮನುಷ್ಯನಿಗೆ ಆತ್ಮ ಅನ್ನೋದೇನ್ ಬಂತಲ್ಲ, ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಅಂತ ಏನ್ ಬಂತಲ್ಲ, that also brought some powers. So there are two powers working now. One is the cosmic powers which has kind of descended from nature. Other one is that the soul has the reflection of the power which is there in the absolute. So the soul has its own power. So if the absolute can create, the soul also can create. ಸೊ ಎರಡು ಪ್ಯಾರಲ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಷನ್ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. ಇದಕ್ಕೊಂದು ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಅಬ್ಸಲ್ಯೂಟ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೋ, ಒಂದು ಕಲ್ಲು ಹಾಕ್ದೆ ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೋ. ಕಲ್ಲು ಹಾಕಿದಾಗ ಕಲ್ಲು ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬೀಳುತ್ತೋ ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ನೀರು ಎಗರಿ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕಡೆ ಒಂದು ಡ್ರಾಪ್ ಬಿತ್ತು ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೋ. ನೀರು, ಬಟ್ ನೀರು ಎಗರಿ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕಡೆ ಬಿತ್ತು. ಈಗ ಕಲ್ಲು ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿತ್ತು ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ರಿಪಲ್ಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ನೀರು ಡ್ರಾಪ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿತ್ತು ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದನೂ ರಿಪಲ್ಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾ? ಎರಡರಲ್ಲೂ ರಿಪಲ್ಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಈಗ ಆ ರಿಪ್ಪಲ್ಲು ಈ ರಿಪ್ಪಲ್ಲು ಕೆಲವು ಕಡೆ ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಕ್ಲಾಶ್ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು, ಇನ್ನು ಕೆಲವು ಕಡೆ ಪ್ಯಾರಲಲ್ ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು, ಫೋರ್ಸ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು. ಸಮ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ರಿಪಲ್ಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ನೆಗೆಟ್ ಒನ್ ಅನದರ್, ಸಮ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ರಿಪಲ್ಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಆಡ್ ಟು ದ ಫೋರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಒನ್ ಅನದರ್. ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಯು ಸಿ ದಟ್? ಸೊ ಆ ರಿಪಲ್ಸ್ ಯಾವುದು ನೆಗೆಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತಲ್ವಾ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಇಂಟರ್ಫಿಯರಿಂಗ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಫ್ ನೇಚರ್. ಯಾವ ರಿಪಲ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೇಚರ್ ಫೋರ್ಸ್ ಜೊತೆ ನಾವು ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವೋ, ವಿ ಆರ್ ಇನ್ ಟ್ಯೂನ್ ವಿತ್ ನೇಚರ್. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಸಿಂಪ್ಲಿಫೈ ಯುವರ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಸೊ ಆಸ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಇನ್ ಟ್ಯೂನ್ ವಿತ್ ನೇಚರ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ರಿಪಲ್ಸ್ ಬರೋದನ್ನ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ರಿಪಲ್ಸ್ ಬರೋದೇ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗೋಯ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಯು ಆರ್ ಇನ್ ಟ್ಯೂನ್ ವಿತ್ ನೇಚರ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ರಿಪಲ್ಸ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರೋರ್ಗು ಕೂಡ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಿ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ ಟ್ಯೂನ್ ವಿತ್ ನೇಚರ್, ಪಾರ್ಟ್ಲಿ ನಾಟ್ ಇನ್ ಟ್ಯೂನ್ ವಿತ್ ನೇಚರ್. ದಟ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ಸ್. Since all created things had brought with them a reflection of the real power. So all created things, every living being that you see has brought a reflection of the real power. Their actions are also similar to those of the cosmic powers which were set into motion by the effect of the stir. ಅದನ್ನೇ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. So every created form also has a reflection of the real power through which it creates. Thus, a spider's web began to be formed. Every particle in its composition possesses the power and will continue to do so till the time of its return to the origin comes. So, ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲೇ ಏನೇನೆಲ್ಲ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, every cell is packed with particles and every particle is packed with power. Now, this power will be there till we actually go back to the origin. That is what will happen. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಈ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಕಷ್ಟ ಅಂತ. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಬಾಬುಜಿ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಲೈನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ಲೈಮರ್ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಪ್ರಿಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ಲೇಮರ್ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಾಬುಜಿ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಗ್ ಪ್ರಿಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಗ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ಲೇಮರ್ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. I don't know whether you are actually able to follow what we are actually what we have read till now. Did you follow at all? Or you found it difficult?
ರಿಪಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾದ್ಮೇಲಿಂದ ಅಮೇಜಿಂಗ್.
So simplify andre essentially create less ripples. That's all it is. When you create less ripples, you are in tune with nature. The more the ripples that we create, the more out of tune are we with nature. ಸರಿ, ಮೆಡಿಟೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರನೇ. We are doing meditation to learn how to create less ripples. That's all we are doing with meditation. Okay. When man was created, his condition was dormant. The dormant elements which he had brought with him had no manifestation. Gradually, the power inherited by him began to develop, and the same original thought that had caused the primary stir being present in man began to manifest itself in proportion to its magnitude. Original stir ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, a stir comes down in man as the human mind. So our human mind derives its power from the original stir. So the original stir came down in human being as the mind. It began to display its actions similar to those of related with the divine. But the divine will being directed downwards, man thought took up a contrary trend and began to build up its own creation. So ಇವಾಗ ಎರಡು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಷನ್ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. man is also a form of one of the forms which is in part the creation ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮನುಷ್ಯನು ಉತ್ಪತ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ತಾನೆ. ಬಟ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಮನುಷ್ಯನಲ್ಲಿ in man we have brought the power of the original stir, and that functions as the mind. Now the original stir is giving rise to the creation in nature. Now man's mind, which is part of the original stir, also creates its own creation. Can you see? So secondary creation ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೋ. ಒಂದು ನೇಚರ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋದು ಪ್ರೈಮರಿ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಷನ್. We have got that power from nature as mind. So using our mind, we create our own creation, which is a secondary creation. So there is one primary creation, other one is secondary creation. Both are happening in parallel. ಏನಪ್ಪ ಗೋಪಾಲ್ ಕೃಷ್ಣ,
ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಐ ವಾಂಟೆಡ್ ಟು ರೇಸ್ ಮುಂಚೆನೆ
ನೀವು ಮಾತಾಡೋದು ಕೇಳಿಸೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಜೋರಾಗಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕು.
ರಿಪಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ನೀವು ಅವಾಗಲೇ. ಐ ವಾಂಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಅನ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ.
ರಿಪಲ್ ಇಟ್ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಇಸ್ ಅನ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್. ಅದಕ್ಕೊಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್. ಆ ಕನಸಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಕನಸು.
ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬೇಸಿಕ್ಲಿ ಲೈಕ್ ಲೇಯರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಂಸ್ಕಾರಸ್ ಅಂತ ನನ್ನ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡಿಂಗ್. ಅದು
ಯಾವುದು ರಿಪಲ್ಸ್?
ರಿಪಲ್ಸ್.
Ripple I gave in the different context.
Okay.
See, what was there originally? Perfect calmness was there. So if you want to think about perfect calmness, think of a lake which is perfectly calm. The water is still. Even if the water is still, the water contains latent motion. Alva? The water has an ability to move. It is now still, but it has a latent motion in it, which is dormant. At the time of creation, kal bittu ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ, a kal ಬೀಳೋದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ stone dropped into the lake, this still lake, a stone dropped, or it could be anything, just a leaf dropped. Here, if you can equate that stone or leaf to the will of creation of God. So the will fell into the what do you say, the still lake. Now where the will fell, like when you drop a stone into the water which is perfectly still, not only the water goes in and creates ripples. When the stone falls in, by the fall of that force, it actually makes a dent in the water initially. Now then the dent which is created now comes out and it tries to stabilize itself, and that is what creates the ripple. If there is no dent, there is no question of any ripples. So wherever the stone fell, it creates a dent. From there the ripples come. Okay. Now that dent is created by the, what do you say, the idea of creation. Now this dent which is created is called as the primary stir. Yeah. So from the primary stir, the waves start going out. When the waves start going out, they actually start taking power. They exhibit power. The movement which was what you say inherent, now starts manifest as power. Okay. Now in this example, take you can say that as and when these waves go out, it gives rise to a form, and that is the human, and the human also imbibe that power from the wave. So this wave created many forms. Out of that form, one is human. So the human also imbibed that power from the wave. Now that power which is imbibed by the human is called as the mind, which is part of that original stir only. It is drawing power from that original stir only. It's mind. Now this mind in the human being gives rise to its own creation now. because it has the power of creation. So in other words, for example, so instead of this way of looking at it, you take in a slightly simpler way. Where the stone fell, suppose one drop of water comes out and drops in other part of the lake. The lake is still. So one drop jumps from here to other part. Now wherever this water fell in the lake, it creates its own ripple. Right? So now you have two set of ripples going on. One set where the stone fell, other set where the water fell. Now remember, the water drop is part of the lake only. It is no different. It is part of the lake only. So originally, our self and the supreme self are one and the same, all part of the same lake. You got the point? So this water drop is the self. Now, since this also inherited the power of water, it gives rise to its own ripples. Can you see? So there is one big set of big ripples coming from the center, and there is another set of small ripples coming from the water drop. So you can experiment it at home. You can just keep a bucket of water. Okay, just drop something suddenly into it. Just allow the drop to kind of create one drop of water, and then it will fall in the other side of the bucket. Within the bucket, it will fall on some place. Then you can see two ripples. Now some ripples dash against one another. Some ripples actually add power to one another. If the ripples are in the same direction, they add power. If the ripples are in the opposite direction, they actually negate one another. Can you see? So when the ripples are in tune with one another, we say that we are in tune with nature. Now that is when in life you do something, very little effort you put, but the result comes out very magnificently. Your effort is very minimal, but since the power of nature is also added to it, nature wanted it that way. You put in very minimal effort, but you get very good results. In other words, our wave and nature's wave are actually adding each other to each other. So the power actually became magnified. Sometimes you see that you put in too much of effort, but in spite of putting so much effort, you don't get any result. That is when the waves are in opposite to one another. So the nature's power overrides our wave, the wave that we have created from our mind. Does it make sense? So this is a very easy example to understand that we human being and the center, we are both made up of the same stuff originally. The self and the supreme self are all nothing but water only. Now, if the supreme self is having the power of creation, the water drop, which is also part of the supreme self, also has the power of creation. What was there before creation? It was still lake with the inherent power of water. The power is inherent, it is latent, it is dormant. That's all. Now, if somebody were to show to the water and say, show me the power in water, nobody can show. But you can feel the power when the ripples start coming out. Right? You go to the seashore and put your legs into the sea. You start feeling the water coming and hitting you. Right? Now that there is power in it. When it comes and hits you, there is power. You can feel that power. Can you see that? Otherwise, you don't feel any power at all. If you just take one cup of water in your hand, you will not feel any power in that. But when it is part of the bigger scheme of the things, you will still feel power in it. In other words, the power or the latent motion is hidden in the still lake. The latent motion is hidden in the still lake. It already has that power. Got the point? I think if you can understand this much for the time being, I think things will become easy. So our mind is part of the original stir. Okay? Like the original still became the reason for the entire creation that you see. Our mind is the reason for our entire creation. We go on creating things because God has given power. Now, what we have to do, if we want to be in tune with nature, we should stop creating. When you stop creating, you will just allow the nature's wave to pass through you. Okay? So that means you are in tune with nature. So simplify means decrease the formation of the waves. That is all it is. Why are you meditating? You are meditating to make the body and the mind still. That's why you are meditating. When the body and the mind is not still, it is creating waves. When it becomes still, there are no waves created. Then the nature's wave just pass through us. Okay? Then what happens? Our will now becomes in tune with the nature's will. That's when our willpower becomes very strong. Got the point? As long as we are creating things, our willpower is actually very weak. When we become in tune with nature, our willpower automatically increases. That's all it is. You got the point? So this is a very easy example to understand. So there are two creations going on. One is nature's creation, what it wants. Other one is human creation. They are always running in parallel with one another. Because no human mind keeps quiet. It wants to do something or the other. The samskaras provoke the human mind to do something or the other. So as long as the samskaras are there, it is inevitable that we create our own waves. The only time when we stop forming the waves is when the samskaras are totally removed. So then what happens? We become simple. When the samskaras are totally removed, by the time we reach the 12th point when samskaras are totally removed, what are we? We are actually pure and simple. That's all it is. Got the point? And then what happens in the central region? We become more and more aligned to the simplicity of nature. If we are true, pure and simple, nature is even more subtler than us. So it is far more simpler. So our simplicity is far more heavier than nature's simplicity. You got the point? So we will go on increasing in subtlety, in purity and simplicity. When the subtlety increases in purity and simplicity, we feel that the purity and the simplicity that we thought was very nice is also still grass only. Because we become even more subtle. So you start feeling simplicity is heavy. So simplicity becomes heavy. As of now, at a grosser state, you feel that simplicity is very nice. But when you reach the 12th point, you start feeling simplicity is very heavy. Purity is also very heavy. So I don't want that also. So I want to leave that also and just see a state where I don't even feel that. Now you tell me in sleep, do you feel yourself pure? Do you feel yourself simple in sleep? ರಾತ್ರಿ ನಿದ್ದೆ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ when you go to sleep, do you ever think that you are pure and simple? No. You have no idea what is purity or simplicity in sleep. So when we reach the self, we have no idea what is purity and simplicity. But we are pure and simple, that's all. But we have no idea what is purity and what is simplicity. But we are that. That's what happens. ಸರಿನಾ? So I'll stop here, pause for a minute. Already ಅರ್ಧ ಗಂಟೆ ಆಗೋದು, ಬರೀ one page ಓದಿರೋದು ಇನ್ನು. So any questions we'll take. So sister, you had written to the central team, I think, about mentor. I can't see your name in our allocation list. When I see your name, I can allocate a mentor.
Actually, in my profile, I have given my permanent address, not the Karnataka one. So at that time, we have allocated. After that, I changed it, but yeah, what I have to do for
You have
the
started taking the
names,
cities locally?
yeah, from Anusha Ramakrishna system.
Okay, but Anusha's history is allocated to somebody else for mentor work. So I'll give you some other
Yeah,
preceptor for mentor work. Okay?
mentor. For book reading, doing it with the preceptor I got from
Who?
Prayagraj itself.
Who?
Uh, Anuradha, Anuradha Pandey. She is from Prayagraj. So
Okay.
I'm
So they have
doing
given
the
you a
book
mentor from
reading
there?
with her online.
No, they have given a
Yeah,
mentor there.
from Prayagraj only they are giving.
No problem. Then continue with her.
Yeah,
No problem.
I wanted to change. I wanted to change because she is teaching in Hindi and I have to write in English. So little bit of language
So
difference is
just
there.
check with them. Just check with them. If they are happy to allocate English mentor, fine. If they cannot do allocate English mentor from there, we will allocate it from here. Because if you change the address, we have to allocate here. If your address is still Ghaziabad, they have to allocate. Okay, just check with her. Okay, I saw your message also. So I can only take two candidates. So I'll have to allocate somebody else to you. Because I can, but you can continue to attend these sessions, no problem. But officially, I have to give one mentor's name. I'll give somebody's name, not to worry. Okay? So, no problem. And when you have the time, go through the past recordings. Gopal Krishna shared all the playlist. Gopal Krishna likes to play. That's why he created the playlist. So, Ellie, Praveen was complaining that I don't tell his name. Elri Praveen ಇದಿರೇನ್ರಿ?
Idil brother,
Praveen, he keeps complaining. You keep telling everybody's name, you don't tell my name.
not today. Today I left office just now.
Oh, that's fine. You're still outside.
Yeah. Just now I'm starting from office.
Oh, okay. No problem. That's okay. Don't worry. So, Anusha sister is allocated. There are a few other preceptors around there. You go to Hudi, no? You go to Hudi for satsang.
I go to Paramdhan.
You go to Parandham. You know a few preceptors there now.
I know a few of them, but I'm not sure that if they are free.
Okay, no problem. But we don't need to worry about Parandham only. We can actually allocate from any part of Karnataka. So we'll look for an English mentor and then we'll allocate to you. But it's just that officially before I can allocate, I need to see your thing in the pre-work portal. I'm not able to see as of now. I think once the address is changed, we should be able to see in our portal. Then I can allocate. Okay. So till that time, continue sittings with Anusha's sister and then continue the book reading sessions here. Okay. No problem. ಪ್ರವೀಣ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಯಾರು VL ಫೋನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಐಫೋನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವರುಣ್ಣ ಇದೇನಿದು ವರುಣ್ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಐಫೋನ್ ಇಂದ ಎಕ್ಸಿಟ್ ಆದ್ರು ಹಾ ಏನ್ರಿ ವರುಣ್ ಇದಿರೇನ್ರಿ
ಬ್ರದರ್
ಐಫೋನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ರೆ ಇಷ್ಟೊತ್ತವರೆಗೂ ಅದೇ ನಿಮ್ದೇನ ಅದು
ಆಫ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಫೋನ್ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಮತ್ತೆ
ಅದಕ್ಕ ಸರಿ
ಡಿಸ್ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು
ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಐಫೋನ್
ಚಾರ್ಜ್
ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಈಗ ಒಂದ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಿರಲ್ಲಿ ಐಫೋನ್ ಅಂತ
ಇಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಹೆಂಗ್ ಬರ್ತಿದೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಆಟೋಮೆಟಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಿದೆ
ನಾ ಹೇಳಿದ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಇವ್ರು ಇನ್ನ ಕ್ಯಾಶ್ ಮೇಕ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್
ಅದೇ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು ಬಟ್ INR ಅಲ್ಲಿ
You are
ಇನ್ನು ನನ್ನ
reinforcing the
ಹಾಕ್ತೀನಿ
I
ಆ ತರ
in the iPhone.
ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು.
ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಸೊ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಇಂದ U4 ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ. iPhone only tries to boost the I automatically. So, Andre, see, we are so aligned to the I that in everything we want to see the I. Right? So there are these few SNP3 candidates. Whichever mentor you give, they are unhappy. They want the mentor of their choice, which I cannot give. Because I can only give 2 candidates to any particular mentor. So then what to do? So everyone wants the same person, multiple people, and they keep demanding also. And you know what it indicates to me? See, first point is flexibility and acceptance. First point. So one candidate I told her on Sunday, if you're not even accepting what is being given for your own best result, then even the first point is not yet been worked on. Then what are you going to work as preceptor? That's what I asked her. The indication of the first point is that you will not choose. You will allow the people in charge to choose for you and wait for the best. In other words, the person who is choosing, see, for example, when we see 500 names, we have no clue who is who. We have no clue, no? So we just randomly allocate. So when we randomly allocate, I have no I there. We have no I there. It is just happening through nature. Right? So when you accept that, that means you are in tune with nature, at least in the first point. If you do not accept that also, then where is the question of preceptor work and all? Can you see? And people are doing all stuff. Different people are going to different preceptors saying that they are going to be my pre-work mentor. See, when in the end, whatever the system names is allocated, they are the one who are going to give the feedback as far as what happened during the pre-work. Somebody else cannot give on their behalf. Then it will become difficult in the end. So that's why I keep telling everyone, please stick to the mentor that we have given. Now that doesn't mean to say that, see, for example, Priya sister has another mentor, but she is free to attend this session. What is there? We want you to learn. We are not closing the option of learning for you. But we have given you the mentor. You also need to accept and acknowledge. And if you want to learn elsewhere also, please learn. There's nothing wrong with it. But don't say that I am not going to go with this pre-mentor. I will go with my pre-mentor, pre-work mentor. That is not going to work. That will only going to create confusion and issues. Serena. Anyway, it's like arranged marriage versus love marriage. The parents have chosen the better half, and now you rebel against the parents and say that I don't want to go with your the choice of the better half. I have chosen my better half, and then you can see the clash. Right? So Priya's sister is very well versed with this Hindi Bollywood drama, right? Anyway, so I hope that we have clarified some of the points. Shall we move on now to the next paragraph? So, when man was created, his condition was dormant. The dormant elements which he had brought with him had no manifestation. Gradually, the powers inherited by him began to develop in the state the same original thought that has caused the primary state being present in man as mind. It's not given there. Being present in mind as man began to manifest itself in proportion to its magnitude. That's why the manifestation of mind is different in each one. It's not the same. The power of the mind is not the same in everyone. Each one of us has different levels of functioning of the power of the mind. although we have come from the same source, each one has a different power. Like every wave that comes and hits your legs in the seashore has a different power, although they are all coming from the same source. Okay? It begins to display its actions similar to those related to the divine. So now the mind is also creating, the divine is also creating. But the divine will being directed downwards, man thought took up a contrary trend and began to build up its own creation. Since he took up the opposite course, all actions that he undertook were in contrast to that of the nature. This led to the formation of an individual network, which in respect of purity was in contrast to that of divinity. Though the action in both the cases are almost the same. Both are creating, but man's creation is not pure. Now you might ask me, when man was originally created, he was in tune with that purity. What then? Imagine the first life of a person. First life. First life. First time you are born. Okay, not now. First time we are born. Don't you think we were pure? And the koshas that we had also were pure. Right? So it was easy to realize the self immediately. Now give me an example of people like this who realized the self in the first life itself, and then they did not have the need to come down to this life cycle of life and death at all. They escaped the cycle in the first life only. Give me an example of that. Are you getting the context? That first time we were born, we all had the chance not to be born and not to be stuck with this cycle. Okay? So there are, probably you might have not heard, you know Jaya Vijaya? Who are Jaya Vijaya?
Vishnu and Dwarpalakar.
So the doorkeepers of Vishnu. Okay? Now they are cursed by somebody. Who are the people who curse them?
ದಶಾವತಾರ ಮೂವಿ ಇದೆ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ ಅವ್ರ ಹೆಸರು ಬರ್ತದೆ ಬಟ್
ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇದೆ, ಯಾರು ಅಂತ ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇದೆ. You can remember the movie, but
ಸಿನಿಮಾ
who is
ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ
that cinema is doesn't know. So if you watch Bhakta Prahalada movie, in the first 10 minutes they show this scene. Bhakta Prahalada. So that's the homework for you. They are called as Brahma Manasa Putraru. So they are the sons of Brahma's mind. So they have their origin in Brahma's mind. That's why they are called as Brahma Manasa Putraru. Brahma is God. Brahma. Manasa means mind. Putra means son. So those sons which have their origin in Brahma's mind. There are 4 of them. So I want you to find out the names of all the 4. That is the homework. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಯಾರು ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ? ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು. ಗಲಾಟೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಡಿ ಸರ್, ಇನ್ನು ನಮ್ಮ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಇನ್ನು ಹೆಸರಿಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ, ನೀವು ಯಾರ್ಯಾರ್ದು ಹೆಸರು ಹುಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ ಬಂದ್ರಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಕೈಲಿ ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ಆಯ್ತು. ಸೊ ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಮಾನಸ ಪುತ್ರರು 4 ಜನ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಾಯಿಂದ ಶುರು ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. All names start with Sa. Okay. Will you search the name and come next time? There are 4 of them. Oh, ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. Your Google and will give the answer. You don't need to go and meet them.
Practical.
So, you know, when these 4 are born, and they are on this earth, they don't know what to do. They are like still young. And Narada comes and teaches them the mantra that they can actually get liberated. in this life only. So he teaches them, and then they get liberation. So you know Daksha Prajapati? Have you heard of Daksha Prajapati? Who was Daksha Prajapati?
The one after Rishi, I think.
Sati's
Sati's father. Sati's father. Okay. He is given the
he
task of
was
creation.
the biggest.
Sorry?
Yeah, that's what he was the creator, highest level kind of person.
What level? We didn't hear.
Like highest level kind of. I was saying the highest level kind of person who created the earth or
When,
something.
when Brahma started creating things, he started creating people who can help him in his job. Okay. So he created Prajapati. He's called as Prajapati. His job is to create prajas. That's why he's called as Prajapati. See the names? They are so relevant. Prajapati means one who creates prajas. Prajas mean people. And you know what happens? The initial few people that Prajapati creates, Narada goes to each one of them and tells them, you can get liberated in this life only. So this fellow is very unhappy, very angry with Narada. I am helping Brahma to get people entangled in the cycle of Maya. You are going and cutting that cycle. So they have a fight. Prajapati and Narada has a fight. Now I want you to read that story also. The fight between Prajapati and Narada. These are very interesting things because it actually helps you. Although it is like a story, it actually helps you. How is causal body formed? How does then the subtle body come? How does the physical body gets formed? All these things you will get to know by reading all these things. So it's very relevant for our journey. So that's why I'm asking you to read. So two things. The four names of the boys. So Brahma's Putras, Manasa Putras, or Brahma's mind's son. And secondly, the story between Prajapati and Narada. Okay? Because if Narada goes on doing what he was doing, then nobody would get entangled in Maya. Then the entire creation would not come into existence only. Then this Prajapati is supposed to answer Brahma. I told you to create people who are entangled in Maya, you are not creating it. So Prajapati says to Narada, you are interfering with my work and also Brahma's work. And by the way, Narada is also Brahma Manasa Putra. ದಶಾವತಾರ ನೋಡಿದ್ಯಾ? ದಶಾವತಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾರದ ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಉತ್ಪತ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ತಾನೆ ಅಂತ ನೋಡಿದ್ಯಾ? Where does Narada come from? He comes from Brahma. But where does he come from? So that means you have not watched the movie closely. The answer to that is go back to Bhagavata Purana. I want you people to get well versed with Bhagavata Purana. Bhagavata Purana gives answer. Where does Narada come from? Narada, of course, is son of Brahma. But where does he come from? What is the origin of Narada in Brahma? So that's the third question to do homework. You can watch Dashavatara movie also, or you can ask Google and also, or you can go to Bhagavata Purana and search also. All the three will give you answers. ಸರಿನಾ? ಸೊ ಭಕ್ತ ಪ್ರಹ್ಲಾದ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ನೋಡು, 4 ಜನದ್ದು ಬರುತ್ತಲ್ಲಿ. Jaya Vijaya, after being cursed by these four, they then are born as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. So they have 3 lives. Now tell me the names of the 3 lives that they take. Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu is first life. Then second life is
Ravana Kumbhakarna.
okay. Third life is
Ravana Kumbhakarna.
third
Kamsa
Kamsa ಅಲ್ಲ.
Kamsa ಇನ್ನೊಂದು
ಕಂಸ ಅಲ್ಲ. ನಾವು ದೇವತೆಗಳನ್ನ ನೆನೆಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಇವರೇನೋ ಬರೀ ರಾಕ್ಷಸರನ್ನೇ ಜ್ಞಾಪಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇನೆ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಡೈಲಾಗ್. We are here to think of God. This fellow is making us remember all the Rakshasas. Anyway, ಮರ್ತೋಗಿದ್ದೀರಾ? It's all right. Third one is Shishupala and Dantavakra.
Just get
Shishupala and Dantavakra. Because he has a very crooked teeth. See the name Dantavakra. Danta means teeth. Vakra means it's kind of curved or crooked. It's not in normal alignment. So that's why he's called as Dantavakra. So many times the meaning, the names itself carry the meaning. And again, these two are killed by Krishna only. So the first two are killed by Narayana in two different avatars. Then Rama kills Ravana and Kumbhakarna. And then Krishna kills Shishupala and Dantavakra. ಸರಿನಾ? ಇನ್ನೊಂದ್ಸತಿ ಕೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಗೋಪಾಲ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಜ್ಞಾಪಿಸ್ಕೋ. Krishna kills Dantavakta and Shishupala. Serena. So three things, three lives you remember. Now the thing is, as they come in down the life, second life and third life, their power decreases. The first life, they are very powerful. Then the second and third life, the power relatively decreases. In other words, the more the life that you have got, the more you are closer to liberation, the power in this life actually decreases. So to say, at least in terms of negative power, if you want to take the Rakshasa's power as negative power, it decreases so that you can move towards positivity. So after they have shed these three lives, what happens to them? They go back to their original form of Jaya Vijaya. That's all. Okay. That's why in many of the Indian stories, loss of life is not considered as the end. It is just that after the loss of life, they take a different form. That's all it is. Okay. So we don't, that is the reason in our culture, on the 13th day, we actually celebrate the loss of life. We do Vaikunta Samaradhane. Samaradhane means it's an auspicious function. Vaikunta Samaradhane. So this fellow has shed the body and gone to Vaikunta. That's why it is called as Vaikunta Samaradhane. You got the point? So the loss of life is actually celebrated on the 13th day. In other words, our culture actually makes you look at life in both the perspective, good perspective also and bad perspective also. Initially, in the first 12 days, you are supposed to mourn. On the 13th day, you are supposed to be happy. Although the incidence is still the same, the person has lost their life. But how you look at the incident changes. See the beauty of it. Right? Now you tell me one culture where they actually celebrate the loss of life. Any other culture where they celebrate the loss of life? Everyone just mourns. They don't celebrate it. Ours is the only culture which actually looks at life as eternal. So after a period of grieving, we actually celebrate the loss of life. Same. That happens after natural death. Now don't start thinking that somebody can kill somebody and then after 13th day you can start celebrating it. Don't have all these vicious ideas in your mind. It's only in case of natural death, ours is the only culture where we actually celebrate death. So we welcome death as part of reality of life. We don't look at it as too bad. We look at death as a means of moving to the next level. Okay, got the point? So many of these rituals, that you have not understood. You over a period of time, you need to understand what exactly happens during the rituals during those 12 days. That's also important. Sorry. The return of God's creation will come into effect when the time limit fixed by the divine will expire. So when does Mahapralaya come in? When the time for the dissolution of the creation comes in, Mahapralaya happens. So there is a time limit, even for God's creation. Likewise, the returns of the man's creation of the network interwoven by him will be possible only when he nullifies the force of the vibrations, which he had set up for their formation. So man's creation is because of the vibrations within. When the vibrations are actually nullified, then the man's creation also comes to a standstill. Since the vibration set up by man was contrary to those of the divine, their crudely grosser form came down into the man's being, whereas the divine vibrations, being finely subtle, retained their original character. So the divine vibrations very subtle, so they retain their original character of divinity. But man's creation was like secondary creation. I told you, no, it's a secondary creation. So it did not retain that original purity or the divine character. The difference between the two kinds of vibration is that the former possessed a perversive trend and the later possessed the original trend. So divine creation has its original trend. The man's creation has a trend which is contrary to the divine creation. Okay. Now, all the powers residing in the absolute are present in man because his thought force comprised all the particles that was present at the time of the main stir. So please underline this. All the powers residing in the absolute is also there in the human. But since they possess an inward tendency, their working took a different course and the faculties possessed by them began to be utilized in a reverse way. So all powers from the primary stir is also from the ultimate is also present in human. But it's just that in human it is directed outwards. In the divine it is directed in opposite direction. You got the point? Every particle of it became strong. All this combined together promoted the growth of intricacies. Every particle of it became strong and powerful like that of God's creation. In that way, man has brought into being a tiny creation of his own. That's why I said there are two creations. So when we talk about, no, this is something that you need to fundamentally understand. At all times, there are two creations. A human creation, a human element in the creation, and a divine creation. At all times, there are two creations running in parallel with one another. Okay. For example, this house that we build is our creation. It is not nature's creation. But when nobody lives in the house, nature takes back that and reclaims that space. Okay. So nature has its own creation in that space. We have our own creation in the same space. Can you see? So for example, you just plant a tree, the tree goes on growing in whatever way it wants. That is nature's creation. Now we see that is some of the branches of the tree are actually interfering with the electric wires. So we cut that. Now that is man's creation. If you had just allowed it to just grow like that, it would have grown in its own way. That is nature's creation. When we cut it for our own sake, for our utility, that is man's creation. Man's creation is always modifications of nature's creation. Whatever nature creates, a man modifies it for his own utility. And he thinks that this modification, he has become more powerful than nature. See the fallacy of it. He thinks that he is more powerful than nature because he just modifies the creation. Man only does two things. Either he modifies the nature creation or he recreates what nature has already created. And in either way, he feels that he is stronger than nature, which is never true actually. Until unless he goes to the center where he can become powerful than nature. That's like when you evolve to the center. But till that time, man is actually subservient to the nature. So you have two choices. Either you become subservient, you lead a life which is subservient to nature, or you lead a life where you have control over nature. But then you have to, what do you say, work with nature to gradually gain the confidence of the nature so that the nature can actually give its power to you and say that you are now powerful than nature. Without working in tune with nature, the nature will not going to give you its powers. You got the point? So that is what needs to happen. Okay, let us leave it here. From there, we can continue tomorrow, the next session. So hopefully next session we'll finish this maxim, and then maybe I'm thinking that it may take another 4-5 sessions. Anyway, so it's coming up to